Yo, what is up guys, Carol here and welcome back to another Black Ops 6 Zombies video. Today's video is going to be episode 2 in the returning perks and augment ideas series that I have going on currently and I've not long started. For those of you guys who have watched episode 1, it was about Voltrade and my ideas, what the augments could have been and what I personally think they should have been for when or if Voltrade was to return to the game. Obviously now we have Voltrade. It did get confirmed not long after I put that video out there, and it came back in season 1 with the release of Citadel Daemons. However, today is episode 2, so we're not going to be doing Voltrade as you guys can imagine. In fact, today we're going to be talking about Electric Cherry, which is my personal favourite perk of all time in terms of how it works, the perk icon, the colours, the perk machine, the bottle, anything to do with it. I personally think it's really cool and it is my favorite perk of the bunch from, across any zombies game or mode or iteration we've had so far up until this point. But yeah, hopefully I'm going to try and keep this video a lot shorter and not nearly as long or as convoluted as the Voltrade one. The Voltrade video had quite a bit to it. It was a bit complex. I had to do a lot of price explanations, in terms of point differences, salvage differences, and I had to break down each individual augment and how that would affect different sort of prices in the game, whether it's war weapons, perks, pack-a-punch, whatever it may be. But Electric Cherry is going to be a lot more simple. So with that said and done, we're going to get straight into it and we're going to explain what the perk is. Obviously, I imagine you guys know what it is already. You've probably used it yourself before, whether it's in Black Ops 3, if you used the version of it in Black Ops 4. I believe it was called Electric... Is it just called Electric Reload, maybe? I'm not sure. I'll have it on screen, but for some reason, they changed the name. They changed the perk icon. It just... I don't get why they ruined it. But, game is the game. So the perk description for Electric Cherry and the base perk would read as: an electric shock is activated around the player upon reloading a weapon. The lower the magazine is, the larger and more powerful the shock is. So you can't do this with melee weapons, unfortunately. You can't reload a melee weapon, obviously. But any other weapon, LMG, SMG, AR, whatever it may be, if you can reload it, whenever you reload it, it will release an electric shock. For those of you who use the augment on Elemental Pop, the Electric Cherry augment in the major slot, it would work the exact same way. That's where Elemental Pop got it from, before they combined the two perks into one, should we say. But yeah, it worked the exact same way as that augment, or as it has done in previous games. Now with the base perk description out of the way, we're going to move on to the first 3 augments, which are the 3 minor augments. And the 3 minor augments, as always with, whether it's perk field upgrades, ammo mods, these are the augments that don't really do all that much or change it in a massive game-changing way. You'll notice slight differences here and there, but they're not going to, blow your mind or completely change the way of, your style of play. But going to the first minor augment, we are starting with Sizable Shock, which would read as: electric shock size at any point in the magazine is slightly larger. So let's say, for example, you have an LMG with 100 bullets and you decide to reload with 80 bullets left. You'd have your normal shock size, however big that may be, however enemies it hits or affects. But with this augment equipped, if you decide to reload at 80 bullets left again, that shock size will now be slightly larger than it would normally be without that augment. It's really simple, really easy to explain. It's hard to show it visually, or sort of give you guys a visual example of what I mean. But I'm sure you guys get the gist. Like I said, really easy and simple to sort of gather. Moving on to the second minor augment, which is Stronger Shock. Electric shock damage at any point in the magazine is slightly increased. So again, it's hard to give you guys a visual example or a visual on the screen of how it would work. But once again, really easy, really simple. if you decide to reload at 80 bullets, your shock does an enormous amount of damage, you know, how much damage that shock would do. But if you have stronger shock equipped, if you reload at 80 bullets once again, that shock is going to do more damage than it normally would compared to without the augment equipped. Third and final minor augment would be strapping shock, which would read as throwing or using lethal or tactical equipment has a small chance to activate an electric shock. So let's say, for example, you have a frag grenade. Obviously normally you throw the frag grenade, you know, however long you've cooked it for, and then it explodes. But let's say you have this augment, strapping shock, equipped to electric cherry, and obviously you've purchased or somehow gained access to electric cherry in game. You're going to pull out your frag grenade, and as you throw it, the shock releases around you as it normally would, like when you reload. But yeah, it just activates when you throw a frag grenade. Or let's say, for example, you throw a decoy. So as you throw the decoy and all the zombies turning around, this shock would stun them or eliminate them whilst they're no longer targeted on you. Or even, for example, a pretty clutch situation could be you're in the Terminus boss fight, you're pinned in a corner, you're not far away from killing patient 13, but these zombies are pinning you in the corner. You've got an amalgam, you've got a mangler, it's not looking too good. Your arm is being broke, you're going down on health, you're a few hits away from being down, the game ending, but you realise you have a stim. So you activate the stim, not only are you healing yourself, and obviously, you know, saving yourself from the brink of death, but an electric shock could go off as well. So you're not only getting your health back, but the shock is killing any enemies around you, and any enemies that it doesn't kill, they will be stunned. So you're buying yourself some more time, you know, whether you want to jump out of the corner, if you want to quickly put some armor on whilst they're all stunned or, you know, being eliminated, whatever it may be. You're basically just buying yourself more time, and, you know, further increasing your chances of completing that Easter egg, completing that boss fight, taking down patient 13 or whatever map it may be. But yeah, that is the 3 minor augments out the way. So now we're going to move on to the 3 major augments. The first one being Dead Cherry, which would read as enemies killed with the electric shock can spread the shock effects to other enemies. So let's say you reload a shotgun, you electrocute one zombie in front of you, and they die. This would now pass on to a zombie behind it or a zombie next to it. And then all of a sudden they die, so it passes it on to another one, and then another one, and then another one. Obviously they're going to get more health as the rounds go on, so your shock's going to do a little less as the rounds go on. But the idea is you could potentially create a chain reaction of electric shocks going off, which would be insanely cool in my opinion, and it'd look really cool if you just electric shock once and then all of a sudden the round is just slowly thinning out from one reload potentially. Especially if you had something like an insta kill, you know, you shock and kill multiple enemies and then they pass it on to more, then they pass it on to more. It's basically just one big loop with one shot that could potentially do an insane amount of damage or an insane amount of clearance for the round. So I think it'd be pretty useful. Moving on to the second major augment, we have Elemental Cherry, which, as you're going to see in a moment, ties back into Elemental Pop, so you know it's going both ways. Elemental Pop took Electric Cherry and put it in itself, so Electric Cherry is going to take a little away from Elemental Pop, you know, sort of get its get back in a way. But Elemental Cherry would read as reloading has a chance to activate an electric shock combined with the effects of a random ammo mod. So you reload, electric shock goes off, but not only are all the zombies, you know, electrocuted, eliminated, stunned, whatever the shock's going to do to them, right? You also see them all start to burn out of nowhere, and because of Elemental Cherry, your electric shock is combined with napalm burst, or, you know, you electric shock, you reload, and you see a zombie brain rotted and turned, or, you know, cryo freeze activates, whatever it may be. even Shadow Rift would be really cool. If you electric shock, or you reload to activate the shock, and let's say it's not powerful enough, sorry, to kill the horde in front of you. Instead, they all get stunned, and then Shadow Rift goes off. So they all get lifted and teleported, and they slam down, and then that kills them. So even if your shock isn't doing enough to get rid of them, the ammo mod behind it or combined with it will be enough to take them out, which I think would be really cool. And with Elemental Pop, with some of its augments such as Citrus Focus, it could tie into that. Citrus Focus being if you have a quick ammo mod on a weapon, Elemental Pop, will only use or activate that said ammo mod. So instead of activating all of them, it will just focus on that one. So maybe you've got Napalm Burst equipped on your shotgun, and you've reloaded to activate the electric shock. Only Napalm Burst can go off. And then finally, we move on to our third major augment, the last one, which is called Modified Cherry, which would read as: reloading gives an electric charge to your dedicated melee weapon. Melee weapon shocks deal increased damage and happen more often. So, you reload, obviously electric shock goes off, but then you switch to your knife or your power drill, baseball bat, whatever else they're going to add, right? You pull it out, and it is charged up, and every time you hit an enemy, you hit a zombie, you hit a mangler, you hit an abomination, whatever it may be, the shock happens every time, as long as that charge is active. It would have like a time on it, like a time window or a limited amount of uses or hits, I guess, whatever they want to do to it if they ever do it. But yeah, you'd hit an enemy, and every time you hit an enemy or a different enemy, however many, you get the point, right? It's going to activate every single time, and that melee hit or melee shock is going to do more than your normal reload shock would ever do. And it also happens more often. Like I said, it happened with every single hit. However, the sort of pull away from this, or to bounce out in a way, the quicker you reload, or the less ammo used before reloading, the shorter the time window, the shorter the charge, and the less damage the melee would do. So let's say you reload after shooting one bullet, obviously your charge is not going to last that long at all. It's not going to do as much damage compared to if you use the full magazine. You dumped an entire LMG mag, reloaded, switched to your melee weapon, and now it is basically Super Saiyan. It's charged up, it lasts a hell of a long time, does loads of damage, you're just mowing the horde down, flying through the round. Yeah, I don't know how else to explain it really, but I think it would be insanely cool. And for those of you guys who might have picked up on it already or don't know already, it's a callback to the modifier in Black Ops 4 that the Electric Cherry version had, which is why it is called Modified Cherry. So there's an explanation for the name. But yeah, that is it. That is me done with the 3 minor augments and 3 major augments, and my explanation and ideas of what I think they could do with Electric Cherry if they were to ever bring it back or make it its own perk again. I am personally not a big fan of them combining it with Elemental Pop. I get the idea, I get why they're doing it, but I think it's a bit of a cop-out, and I think it basically just takes the limelight away from Electric Cherry being its own thing. But let me know what you guys think of my augment ideas, what you would do to perk yourself if you were to make your own augment ideas. Let me know in the comments below. Let me know if mine are completely useless, completely broken maybe. If you guys think they'd be cool, if you'd make tweaks, any changes, any differences, whatever it may be. I'm always down for a conversation in the comments below. But I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, make sure to drop a like on this video. Feel free to share it to your friends and family, see what they think of my ideas. And if you haven't already, feel free to subscribe to the channel. It is free and it helps out massively. But yeah, that is it guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.